So, you think your innovation is sustainable, right? But can you prove it? Because starting next year, the EU might force you to prove it. The Green Claims Directive will hit every startup, every SME, every researcher that is claiming their project is eco-friendly. And well, the fines are brutal if you can prove that they are indeed eco-friendly. But there's a flip side. If you get it right, you'll unlock new markets, new funding, serious investor trust. So in this episode, I'll break it down all for you. And that's just the beginning of the episode. Then I'm joined by Leandro Cartelli. He's a Argentinian talent strategist, an evaluator, and is the founder of Lana Talent. He's been helping innovative companies build high performing teams across borders, across cultures, across systems. Well, the planet is really getting smaller, right? This is a great talk about remote work, about AI, about changes in migration policies in some countries, in the EU and the US. And we also talk about why diverse teams drive revenue up. According to him, more than 30%. That part of the interview on itself is worth it. Something to think about, actually. Diversity is seen not as a moral or a woke thing, but seen as a business strategy and a profitable one. So it's more than a hiring conversation, it's a survival guide for innovation. And trust me, you will want to take notes. Finally, in this episode, we'll decode an Horizon Europe call, a Cluster 2 call. It's a major opportunity to fund your work in preventing gender-based violence. And I'll show you how to deal with it and make your proposal. So please subscribe, please share with the people you think might be interested in it, and let's get into it. You're not going to believe this, but in less than 2 years, saying that something is eco-friendly in your proposal, or in your product, or in your pitch, saying that without hard scientific proof, can cost you up to 4% of your turnover. So this is the new reality under the EU's Green Claims Directive. So can fake claims or fake news be punished after all? In today's episode, I'll show you how to turn this regulation into your competitive advantage. So let's get clear on what's happening. The Green Claims Directive is a new EU rule that says you can't make environmental claims unless they're clear, comparable, verifiable, and certified by an independent verifier. So this really changes everything. Whether you are a startup pitching to investors, or a researcher submitting an Horizon proposal, or you are an SME launching a sustainable product, beware of your claims. Vague claims are now liabilities. So there's no more writing things like eco-conscious or carbon neutral or climate positive, unless you've got the science to back it up. So this is the new gold standard. You need life cycle data to make life cycle assessments. You need environmental footprint methodologies, and you need both product and organization environmental footprint reports. This is your new marketing compliance. But here's the opportunity. I see you're saying it's very complex, a lot of work and expenses, but an opportunity comes with it. You can now become an evidence factory, turn this requirement into a service, help others quantify their footprint, and sell that verification capacity. this is the new opportunity. And it's huge. Take the example of the life cycle assessment calculations, LCA. We have new mnemonics. So we're talking about assessing all the stages a product goes through, including raw material extraction, manufacturing, processing, transportation, distribution, users phase, and end-of-life disposal or recycling. So you have to calculate things like carbon footprint, CO2 emissions, water usage, energy consumption, toxicity, pollution, resource depletion, waste generation. All these impacts are calculated, and you need to calculate them using standardized methodologies, not just the way you feel in the moment. You need to use probably the methodologies that are already established in the ISO norms, ISO standards, like the 14040 or 044. Doesn't matter. You have to look for the right methodologies. And here's the roadmap. The adoption of this EU new Green Claims Directive is expected to the second half of this year. The first half is still possible, but not easy. Today is the 9th of June. So the transposition into national laws is required by next year, 2026, and the real compliance by 2027. So you've got 24 months to embed these systems. But be careful, if you're writing proposals now, you're writing proposals that, if funded, if approved, will be running in the next 3-5 years. So you should include these already in your proposals, because it will be running by the time you close your project. And the time to act really is now, before this becomes a problem and a blocker for your next call. So let's talk about risks. If you get it wrong, you can expect fines up to 2 million, or even 4% of your annual turnover, 4%. But maybe worse than this, you get blacklisted, public naming and shaming. And maybe even worse than that, you get excluded from public procurement. For startups and SMEs, that can be a death sentence, not a slap in the wrist. But if, on the other hand, if you're early and compliant, you have a competitive advantage. You are now a preferred partner in any EU-funded or ESG-sensitive initiative, not necessarily calls. The opportunity for tech innovation is really here, and it's exciting, because this directive, it tries to punish greenwashing, I think, but it also creates entirely new markets. You have AI applications to perform these LCA calculations I talked before. You have the possibility to use blockchain for traceability, or you have the possibility of selling green claim as a service platform, digital product passports for verification. There's a lot of new things that are an opportunity. So if you are a startup in this space, it's now. This is your moment. If you are a researcher, this is your funding angle. This will be your competitive advantage. So we hope greenwashing may be over. I hope so. Because from now on, saying eco in your work without proof will cost you more than it helps you. But on the other hand, this is a marketing opportunity. You need a reboot in your narrative. Don't say it's sustainable. Show the numbers that say it's sustainable. Don't say in your marketing, don't say it reduces the impact. Publish the calculations that show it reduces the impact. That's what evaluators, consumers, and the EU will now be looking for. And then if you make it, if you make it in the EU, if you're successful, you might have actually a competitive advantage elsewhere. What you really need here is mindset shift. You need to change your mindset. Designing for verifiable sustainability needs to start in day one. So research and development teams must now co-create with sustainability experts, or must include sustainability experts. Innovation teams must collaborate with the LCA modelers. Must bear in mind how you're going to calculate the impacts of your new products, your innovations. And researchers need to bring environmental scientists for proposal writing, for the impact sections at least. Probably all the proposal. What's wrong? Okay. So there's I think a whole new role emerging. I think this is very European. You'll have the Green Claims Officer. SMEs will need them. Universities will train them. Startups will hire them, and they will need to learn about LCA models, about sustainability data analysis, about impact-proof copywriting for marketing. So your hiring roadmap should include all of this, and your upskilling plan should include all of this. So it's probably your next training program. Finally, this is more than a legal update. This is can be seen as a transformational signal, in my opinion. Innovation ecosystems need to watch this signal very closely all across Europe. And they need to adapt fast. And if you do, you'll lead the transition. You'll be the leader. If you don't, if you wait too long, your claims and eventually your funding may expire. So I would love to hear your opinion on this. Have you heard about this before? Are you ready for it? Share in your comments, please. So welcome back to InnovEU. Welcome, Leandro. We have with us today Leandro Cartelli. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're Argentinian. You are based both in Argentina and Miami. Who is Leandro Cartelli? What do you do?
Thanks, Fernando. First of all, and thank you for the time, for having me today and having this conversation together. Very excited to be here. So let me tell you about myself. Yes, I'm originally from Argentina, and now I go back and forward between Argentina and the US. I spend a lot of time in Miami, basically about me, I've always I spent my entire career doing recruiting and talent acquisition. I've gone through large corporate businesses to startups. And actually started my own business last year, Lana Talent. And basically, what I do and what I invest my time in and what I like, what I've enjoyed over the past many years is helping businesses find the right talent to grow and to succeed, right? And when, I talk about the right talent, I don't just mean, an individual that has just a set of skills that are required, but that's also someone that, is the right cultural fit with the company, with the team that complements their needs outside of just, the hard skills, like, being a good developer or being a good marketer, but that they bring more to the table and that they connect with the vision and aspiration and purpose of the company, right? And that's how, the best teams are made. And so that's really what I'm all about and what I do, what I've done for more than 15 years, and now what I do with my company.
So you try to find the right match between people's talents and aspirations and lives and the market for those talents and the companies. Tell me one thing. Am I wrong to say that for an innovative company or a company that is trying to create innovations and bring them to market, talent is even more important than for any other company?
Absolutely. There's a number of things around that. I would say short answer is yes, 100%, 110%. And then it's really about understanding what you need in terms of talent for your company, and investing the time in really going after that. So a couple of things that come very very fast to mind is first, when we go to the market and find talent, companies, especially smaller businesses, more dynamic, more agile, speed is important. I always say the talent need is always urgent. It's always critical. When you need someone in your team, you need it fast, right? But many times we neglect the fact that when we accelerate that process, we have biases. For example, people tend to find people that are similar to themselves. And so when you find people, individuals that are similar to yourself, you lose a lot of value in having a diverse team that will bring different and new perspectives, right? Or bring, innovation to the conversation. And so if there's no disruption, no challenging what's being done, there can be no innovation at the end of the day. And so, when you accelerate the processes, when you neglect your biases, when you don't look at having talent showing your business or company or organization of any kind that's diverse, that brings different perspectives, whether diversity from a gender, from a racial perspective, from a nationality perspective, whatever. There's a lot of ranges to diversity, whatever it may be. That's really what helps with being more innovative, right? And we know having a diverse team can impact, and I'm going to talk from business perspective only, right now, but it can lead to 20 to 30% higher revenue for a company, right? That's massive. That's a lot. Just having a more diverse team, and from that up to the point of how do you determine what you need, right? Because I'm talking about diversity. I also believe the cultural fit is critical, but if you don't know what that culture looks like, then you can never go and find the person that's the right cultural fit. Or if you don't have a good sense on what are the soft skills, the strengths of the soft skills of your team, then you don't know what else to look for in the market that can complement those skills and help you be more innovative and have better results. And so that's a very complex process that many times companies don't invest the time in, and that can impact directly innovation, growth, results.
Let me ask you kind of the same question, but from the other side, from the side of the young professional that's starting a career and maybe has a researcher, maybe connected to innovation. So we are in this age of post-COVID, right? Post-pandemic, where Zoom has become the most used, and the remote work has become the norm. And at the same time, we are in this age where suddenly places where you would think you could build a career as a top professional don't really want you because you're a foreigner. Where migration has become a dirty world. Is this the right time to try to build such a career, or should we advise these young professionals to go do something else?
Well, that's a loaded question, right? I mean, there's so many things around that. So let me share my personal perspective on that, and there's so many nuances to this, right? Because countries have different legislations. It also depends on the government in charge at the time. There's a lot of things happening there, right? But I do believe that on the one side, we have been undergoing a transformation process where companies are adopting, and we went, we're going a bit of back and forward, right? Remote work became the norm during COVID. Then there's a lot of companies just taking that back and asking people to go back to the office. Talent on the other side still values a lot remote work, and I wouldn't say only remote work, but rather flexibility, it's not about being in the office or not being in the office. It's about having the flexibility to adopt your work with your life. And maybe, most people still value the time in the office and the
That's
human
probably
connection.
one of the consequences of the pandemic. Flexibility became much more important for people. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. And it's not, like I said, it's not about not having to go to the office. And I work remote and I never go to the office. The opposite. I love going to the office and connecting with my team and spending time together, right? And I think there's a lot of value to that, but really on our own terms, right? When do we go to the office? And when do we spend the time? There might be days that it's more valuable and productive for me to stay home and do deep work, and days where it's more valuable for me to go in the office and just do productive work together with my peers. And there is a lot of value in the discussions live. Ideas come up and bonds are made and culture and relationships are built, right? And so there is value to that. And there's ways you can do that with remote work. It's a bit harder. You have to be very intentional about it, invest the time in creating virtual office space, maybe some kind of engagement actions that connect people with each other. It's harder, but it's still possible. But I do believe that people want that flexibility, right? And if they want to travel 3 months, around the world, they can do it. I do see there's big names in the industry. I won't talk about specific companies. I won't name names. There's companies that want people to come back to the office, but there's a lot of companies that don't. And I do believe that what we're seeing for the most part is small businesses, startups, more dynamic companies have embraced this model completely, right? Our company, Lana Talent, what we do is exactly that. And we work mostly with startups, from the US, in Latin America, even in Europe, that tell us, we want to find the best person. We don't care where they are, but they value other things that are relevant for them, right? And they're used to working, remotely. I talk to founders all the time that are just traveling all the time, all the time, just from one place to the other. And why would they ask a person in their team to be in the office a few days a week when they're never there, right, themselves? And so I do believe that there's, there exactly, and I do believe again, I always say, not every company and every culture and every type of role is right for every person and vice versa, right? And so I think people need to understand what works for them and go after that. There's individuals that love to be in the office, so go after jobs and opportunities that make you be in the office, right? And if you ensure remote work and flexible and traveling, maybe just go after that. And the same with culture. I do believe there's another thing, Fernando, that's part of this, which is with all the transformation we're seeing now with technology, AI, which is the topic of conversation for the last year and a half, and how dynamic companies are. We're seeing, for the last couple of years, but even more now, a lot of fractional work. So basically, professionals that just work part-time on one place and the rest of their time on another place, or maybe they do, let's say I do talent acquisition, right? I do fractional talent acquisition in one company, but then I work on my own project the rest of the time. So there's a lot of that happening, right? People finding ways to it becomes like building blocks, completely different as what we were used to in the past. Before, it was your standard 9 to 6 job, office time, and that was it. And now there's so many ways and so many different shapes that it can take. And I think individuals need to understand what's right for them and then go after that.
I can't miss this opportunity to ask you this question, because I've been listening to the news and I've seen the US president trying to keep Harvard from having international students and deporting migrants, some of them highly qualified. And then we heard both President Macron from France and Mrs. von der Leyen, both kind of making a pitch to scientists to come to Europe, even though they pay less. But is this the time for make that kind of move for a professional, probably a scientist, a researcher? Is this the right time to think about moving to Europe? What's your view?
It's yeah, I think it's hard, right? I think it's on the one side it's a shame what we're seeing happening in the US, right? With migrants and with people being deported, and in all aspects, from all kinds of backgrounds. So I think that's a shame. Having said that, I think you know there's also different views and different politics in Europe, and there's countries that are more welcoming than others, and you probably know this a lot better than me. I do believe that Europe has traditionally had a culture of being very welcoming, especially for talent that has more value to there's always, of course, you have to go through the process, right? It's not easy. It's not like, hey, come here and that's you're done, right? And just doors are open. Definitely not, right? We know that. But there's definitely been, I'm from Argentina, and Argentinians have migrated to Europe for a lot of time, right? Especially Spain, Italy. You have to go through the process, right? I mean, it takes time, and there's a lot of components, but there's always been, especially for I think the research and scientific field, there's always been for smart people that have something to give and value to add, opportunities to go to Europe, right? And I think to me, sometimes you have to go with the flow of what you're seeing from a global political landscape, and unfortunately, the US right now is becoming a more difficult place to migrate to, and unfortunately, they're just going the opposite direction. And I think that's why we're also seeing a lot of businesses. They've been doing it for a long time, but even more so looking at remote talent in other regions, right? We're seeing a lot of US businesses look at Latin America for talent, because there was a lot of people that just are being deported, or they're seeing that there's a lot of challenges to have them there. Of course, from a cost perspective, it's cheaper, right? There's a lot of variables to that, and we know it. But I do believe that that's probably right now, with the way the waves are moving, that it might be a better destination to consider.
Well, I have to make you a similar question from the point of view of a startup. If you want to start your company, if you want to create your business, and you want to have the best talent, is this the right time to move to Europe? Or it just became too, how do you say that, too normal, too globalized? It's the same thing everywhere, anywhere.
So I think actually a little bit of both, right? So I think on the talent side, it's become agnostic in terms of locations, right? There's good talent everywhere, and you can access it, right? There's no limitation to access great talent. So I'm personally from Argentina. My company looks to position Latin American talent to the world, and so it's as easy as having a conversation, discussing the talent needs, and we'll find someone in Argentina or in Colombia or in Brazil that can work for a company that's in the US or that's in Portugal, right? Or in the UK or anywhere in Europe. And so, from a talent access perspective, I think, it's never been so easy to be able to access a global talent pool. And that's amazing, right? Because there's a lot of value to that. We talked before about diversity and how it impacts productivity and revenue and innovation. So it's going to have a direct impact on that, of course. Like I said before, cost perspective, right? I mean, we know talent in Latin America is going to be more cost effective than maybe in some countries, in Europe or in the US. We all know that. Now, having said that, there is other roles or other times when it's good to be in the country. And so, for example, there's a lot of nuances around dynamics of local needs connecting with, with your client base if they're local, that make a difference. And so it really depends on the type of business you're running. It depends on, what your ideal customer persona is. Do you want to go after clients in the UK? And do you typically see that, when you, let's say you want to sell to clients in the US, they feel more comfortable and you're more successful if you're a local, business development representative? Or, are they okay with someone with a bit of an accent like myself? And so those are things that you need to consider. And we see that, depending on, the country, depending on the roles, depending on different variables, it's sometimes good to have a bit of a hybrid team, right? You have some people locally and you have some, remote talent. For example, when you have tech talent, right? A development team. Well, you can have all the, front end, back end, full stacks, product team, UX, whatever. You can have all of that in Latin America. But maybe if you want, a commercial director that's sitting with a VP, with any, large company locally, then, well, you need that person to be there, right? They just need to go and have a coffee and have a live conversation, because many times that's the way business is done. So I think it's a bit of both, right? It's very agnostic in terms of access to talent, but it depends on the industry that you're in. It depends on the roles, and it depends on the stage of development of your company, right? Maybe, early days, you can do fully global remote talent. And then when you grow, you do need someone that's local and having those conversations over coffee.
But am I wrong to think that this is the best time in history for your kind of business to help with this matchmaking?
I think it is a good time. Yes, I would say so. If not, I made a mistake a year ago when I founded Lana Talent. So I hope I didn't. But I truly believe in this, right? And I believe that, we are in an age where, or a stage right now of technology evolution that really enables that, right? I saw yesterday, I think it was yesterday or last week, the launch of Google, the live translation on Google Meet. And that's just breaking barriers, right? That's just someone that before, if you maybe didn't have the English skills to have a conversation with someone in that language, you would not have the opportunity to access to a job opportunity. Now, Google has launched live, translation on Google Meet. And so you'll speak in Spanish and it's going to translate in English directly live there and then. And that's just, it's a time where those barriers are just completely down. And so there's, technology just enables the, global and remote work. At the same time, I also think that it's a time of more and more innovation where there's a lot of people that just want to go and start their own business, that, that have ideas and that they have, with the technology, the ability to just, do it. And with our business being great talent and, being Latin America with lower cost, it's also a good time because we enable smaller businesses, startups to maybe build a team that they wouldn't have in the past, right? Because, maybe headcount costs were 2 or 3 times as much, or maybe because they needed a team of 3 people and they could hire only 1 person with their budget. And now they can hire 3 people instead of 1 because they hire with us in Latin America. And so I think it's a really great time in that sense. And I think businesses more and more, and people are more comfortable with this type of dynamics. They, it's been happening for years now. Major businesses like, 500 companies, they do it, right? There's, I won't mention the companies, but I've worked at, some of the biggest consulting companies in the world, and they have hundreds of thousands of people in Latin America working for US and Europe. And so if they do it, now we're giving access, thanks to the technology, to, being enabled by those barriers that I mentioned before coming down. We enable smaller businesses to do the same and take advantage of the same, right? Which basically helps level the game field. And that's amazing, I believe.
No, I see. Yeah, I think you have the right vision. You started at the right time. Anyway, I hope you don't mind we put your contacts in the episode notes so that anyone who needs to reach you can find you easily. Because I think your role can be quite important nowadays. There is a simple idea of matching people and companies and research, innovation, and talent. It's quite important. And as you said, barriers are going down. So it's more and more open, even though some people try to close some, build some walls, but I don't think they will succeed.
I don't think so either. And I think what's important is that, when any type of organization thinks about talent, it's not something that you should do, sort of quick and dirty, right? You need to invest the time, right? Understand the needs, understand the culture, have the conversations, explain, it's a back and forward, companies and talent, they need to match, alike from both sides. And so investing the time and not making decisions, the wrong decisions just to go fast. That to me is one of the most important things that anyone can do, if they want to have the right talent in their company and for them to succeed in the long term.
Leandro, any final message before we close the interview?
No, nothing else. I think we've covered a lot. I appreciate the time, Fernando. It was great to have the conversation. And I think, the only thing that I would say to anyone that's struggling with the idea of having a global and remote team, explore it, study it, have the conversations, then make a decision, right? Having conversations doesn't mean making a decision or an investment. But I think there's a lot of value to, diverse teams, to, finding cultural, relevant individuals and talent. And, there's talent all over the world, right? Not only in Latin America, we do Latin America, and I'm biased, of course, because I'm from here, but there's amazing talent all over the place. So I think people should definitely consider that.
Well, thank you very much for this interview, for joining us, and I hope we'll get in touch soon again. And well, thank you. Have a nice week.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fernando. Love the conversation.
What if the EU would pay 100% of your research costs to tackle gender-based violence and position your organization as the go-to change maker? Stay with me for the next 3 minutes and I'll show you how to win big, save money, and cut months off your proposal timeline. So here's what you need to know. This call is codenamed Horizon CL2 2020 501 Transfer 01. It's all about addressing gender-based violence in different social and economic areas. Now, why does this matter? Gender-based violence costs the EU an estimated 366 billion euros every year. Solving it isn't just a moral mission, it's an economic game changer. Let's talk numbers. The budget for this call is 10.2 million euros in total. That's enough for about 3 funded projects. Each project can get up to 3.4 million euros fully funded, including your overheads. Mark your calendar. The call opens on the 15th of May 2025 and closes the 16th of September 2025 at 17:00 CET sharp. Who can apply? Pretty much any legal entity in the EU or an associated country. That means NGOs, SMEs, universities, public bodies, you name it. But your consortium must have at least 3 independent entities from 3 different countries. Want to boost your chances? Integrate social sciences, bring in survivors' voices, and make sure your team is gender balanced. So, what's the EU expecting? Prevention models, scalable toolkits, policy input, and proof of economic savings. Here's how to win. Frame gender-based violence as a cost-saving innovation. Team up with survivor networks, bring in public bodies who are ready to pilot solutions and use smart technology. Plan out your schedule week by week, submit early, and make sure your proposal checks every box from the evaluator's perspective. For the full details, visit the EU Funding and Tenders portal and search for Horizon CL 2025-01 Transfo 01. This is your chance to drive change and get the funding to do it right.
EU, the EU Project Chronicles, is a weekly video podcast. Please subscribe to Polixdocs newsletter to receive every podcast episode. And if you like receiving it, please press like in whatever platform you are watching or listening. Also, please share InnoVU and Polixdocs with anyone you feel will enjoy it. Credits: author and host Fernando C. Gaspar, music Hugo Gaspar, Lisbon, Portugal, 2024. Reach us by email or DM.